we ever get a Democratic president, they could say, I don't like Melania Trump. She wasn't born here. She was born in Slovenia. She is a naturalized citizen. She's out of here.
That's exactly right. And I think that, you're asking for a level of logic from these Republican Congress members that they just don't have. It's turned into a cult party.
She wasn't an American citizen, and 3 of her children are Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. And maybe the next Democratic president says, you know what, I don't like the Trumps.
Did you know Melania Trump received an Einstein visa meant for people with extraordinary abilities? A modeling career might not exactly scream extraordinary. Now, Joy Reid's live TV comment has everyone asking the uncomfortable questions Trump won't address. Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. What happens when the immigration rules you cheered for start knocking on your own front door? Well, if you're Donald Trump, those knocks might sound a lot louder lately. For years, Trump built his political image by going all in on hardline immigration policies.
Ivana Trump, the late Ivana Trump, who's buried in the golf course in New Jersey in Donald Trump's golf club. And so we're going to denaturalize all of the Trump children whose mother was a foreigner at the time.
I mean, that would be a serious escalation. Trump, I obviously don't agree that we should kick. I mean, people who commit violent crimes should be imprisoned.
Rallying for that wall, rolling out travel bans, and making deportation force sound like the newest summer blockbuster series. He sold these ideas as the tough love prescription to put America first. But now, thanks to one sharp comment on live TV, people are starting to wonder if Trump's playbook might backfire closer to home than he ever intended. It all started with Joy Reid. During a recent broadcast, Reid dropped a tactical nuke into the conversation by floating the idea of deporting none other than Melania and Barron Trump. This wasn't just some offhand comment meant for shock value. It was a direct aim at the glaring contradictions in Trump's policies. Here's the twist. Under the rhetoric Trump's been pushing since day one, someone like Melania, an immigrant who went through the citizenship process, could theoretically be scrutinized. Reid's remark wasn't just about stirring the pot. It was about holding up a mirror to Trump's immigration policies and asking, are you prepared to follow your own rules even if it means targeting your own family? Ever heard the phrase, start at home?
People who are American citizens and commit serious crimes, that is just as serious, and I'm occasionally this focus on the immigration status is getting around our crime problem. We have a crime problem, a violent crime problem. I don't think we can denaturalize. I am not up to date on this aspect of the law, but that is the serious solution, not trying to deport them, I think. So I don't know why we need to go down that rabbit hole. Possibly that could be done in some of the cases if people commit very serious violent crimes who came here and got citizenship, and maybe that could be taken away. I guess I'm not.
Congresswoman Maxine Waters took that sentiment and ran with it, famously declaring that Trump's immigration obsession should begin with his own family. Her remarks about investigating the citizenship processes surrounding the First Lady and even Barron weren't just political digs. They were an open invitation to examine the hypocrisy baked into Trump's stance. How can someone wage war on immigrants with one hand while fast-tracking their immigrant spouse and child with the other? The waters Trump churned up over the last several years might just start circling too close for comfort. But let's raise the stakes a little. Imagine it's years down the road and a different administration or even a court decides to take Trump's immigration rules and flip them back on anyone who doesn't pass the sniff test, no matter what their last name is. Could Melania's citizenship face scrutiny if a future power decided Trumpian rules of the past weren't just for immigrants without connections?
I think previously, whenever the suggestion was made at all, which was very, very seldom, the idea was if someone was a naturalized citizen and then committed actual treachery, so somebody...
Right. We would not send them back to the Soviet Union in this case. We would not send them back to China. We would imprison them.
No.
Just getting the people out of the country is not necessarily and always the point.
Seems to be part of this broader, very, very hard line on immigration. And the idea of the government using immigration policy to crack down on people with whom they disagree in various ways.
It's all speculation for now, but the idea that the system could swallow its own creators isn't new. Trump may have spent years crafting legal traps for immigrants, but maybe the fine print of his policies forgot to exempt his wife. And here's the awkward truth bomb. Trump's whole America First mantra starts to look even more hypocritical when you remember that Melania embodies the exact kind of immigrant success story that his policies seem designed to block. Her meteoric rise from a small Slovenian town to US citizenship and eventually first ladyship might seem inspiring, sure, but under Trump's stricter policies, the barriers to that kind of story only grew higher for everyone else. What was celebrated as her pursuit of the so-called American dream gets completely undercut by the administration's willingness to close the door after her. So here's where it starts to get almost darkly funny. If we really played by the harsh, no loopholes stance Trump pitched, America First might just kick his family out the back door. Think about that. The same policies toasted in MAGA rallies across the country could, on paper, start a chain reaction that drops his family squarely in the danger zone. That's the two-faced reality Trump left behind. The rules may be good for others to follow, but were always designed to bend for his inner circle. And if Reid's pointed remark didn't make clear how absurd that is, nothing will. As the camera zooms in on the complexities surrounding Melania's background, it's impossible not to notice how much these second glances complicate Trump's narrative. He's spent so long pointing fingers outward that he seems entirely unprepared for them to start pointing back. We're about to step deeper into that rabbit hole by talking about what might be the most baffling part of Melania's immigration story, her famous Einstein visa. Here's the kicker. How exactly does a modeling career count as an extraordinary ability?
Now, Congressman Andy Ogles, who I find a rather Frank-like figure, but in any event, he was sort of suggesting that it could be done in the case of Zoran Mamdani. Too deep into the weeds, a very contentious case in New York where people were convicted of contributing to a charity which they said was a legit charity and which authorities say was connected with. So the idea that someone should face deportation when in the case of Mamdani they are a US citizen, that seems a ludicrous and dangerous suggestion to me.
Yes.
And therefore I worry about the mainstreaming of this denaturalization idea.
How does a modeling career qualify as extraordinary ability? That's the million-dollar question, one that's turning heads because it lies at the heart of Melania Trump's most puzzling credential, her EB-1 visa, or as it's nicknamed, the Einstein visa. Now, if hearing the phrase Sports Illustrated model in the same breath as extraordinary achievement makes you raise an eyebrow, you're not alone. The EB-1 isn't something you just stumble upon. It's intended for the best of the best. Geniuses, world-class athletes, groundbreaking scientists, and occasionally someone who cures cancer before breakfast. So how did Melania, with her standout claim to fame being an appearance in a swimsuit magazine, land in the same category? Let's break it down. The EB-1 visa is an elite pathway to citizenship, usually reserved for people with national or even global acclaim. Think Nobel Prize winners, Olympic gold medalists, or researchers who cracked the code for life on Mars. The requirements are rigid because this visa isn't supposed to be handed out like free tote bags at a conference. It's a badge of honor for people sitting at the pinnacle of their industries, and the key word here is extraordinary. No disrespect to her modeling portfolio, but it's hard to argue that Melania's accomplishments fit this mold, unless we're suddenly ranking bikini shoots alongside groundbreaking cancer research. Of course, this has turned Melania into a walking question mark. How did she pull this off? Was her application really based on merit, or was it helped along by her proximity to the high-rise real estate mogul she was romantically linked with at the time? The skepticism has only grown as people think about the implications of her case. If she got through on connections instead of credentials, it's another glaring example of how the system isn't set up to reward talent. It's set up to reward influence. And for a president whose entire brand revolved around cracking down on immigration loopholes, this particular loophole isn't just glaring, it's practically lit up in neon. Speaking of hypocrisy, Melania hasn't exactly been a ride or die supporter of Trump's harsh immigration agenda. Remember that time she liked a tweet questioning her own Einstein visa? The tweet sarcastically asked, how exactly did Melania Trump get an Einstein visa? Talk about awkward family dynamics. Between that and her rumored distance from some of Trump's more extreme rhetoric, it almost feels like Melania herself might be silently criticizing the fortress her husband tried to build around America. And the saga of that Einstein visa only adds to the questions swirling around Trump's playbook. It's like a headline that refuses to go away because it hits so many sensitive nerves. When someone like Melania is at the center of the narrative, it becomes impossible to separate the story of privilege from the story of immigrant struggles. But here's the real kicker. What happens when citizenship itself, something so permanent and defining, gets weaponized? Trump's immigration policies always thrived on division, us versus them, insiders insiders versus outsiders. But what happens when those lines start blurring inside his own home? When Joy Reid pointed the lens at Melania and Barron, she exposed a truth Trump can't outrun. Weaponizing citizenship creates cracks that don't stop until they reach the foundation. And let's be clear, this isn't just about Melania or Barron. When citizenship becomes a weapon, no one is safe. History's shown that those cracks always widen. One thing's for sure, what goes around has a way of coming back, and no one plays by those rules forever.